Welcome back to Key Factors Podcast. I am your host, Mark Jones, and this podcast is sponsored by ReviewMyMortgage.com, the largest index of mortgage programs nationally. And today we're going to be talking about apartment locating. We're going to be talking about a transition to becoming a broker. We're going to be talking with my guest, Peter Trevino. Peter, how you doing, man?
Doing great, Mark. Thank you so much for having me on this podcast today. I'm very grateful that I'm here today.
Absolutely. So this topic, I think, is a pretty hot topic in our market right now because there's a lot of, let's call it, lack of inventory going on. And there's a lot of realtors or real estate agents that are currently in apartment locating that are potentially looking to make a transition to the real estate side of things. And we've got just so many questions in regards to what's going on with our market. So I wanted to bring you on here first to tell your story about how you got to where you are, what it took, all that good stuff. And then we'll dive into some talking points regarding the actual apartment business, the market, and the way that it's going. So, Peter, if you could tell us a little bit about yourself, go ahead, take it away.
Awesome. Well, first and foremost, guys, my name is Peter Trevino. I'm actually a real estate broker now. I started in real estate 15 years ago. It all started when I saw an ad in the newspaper, believe it or not, if those still exist. It said our top agent did $10,000 this month. And first thing I thought, hey, I'm going to get rich doing real estate. So I did take a dab in the real estate world doing general real estate. And my first year, believe it or not, I made $13,000, which was a lot of failures, failing forward, talking to clients every day, prospecting like crazy. It's not till I saw this ad in the newspaper, I'm like, hey, this looks great. Let me speak with someone about this. Well, I met an agent and I was like, I believe, in reality of things, right? If someone says, hey, show me the proof, show me the receipts, right? As they say.
Right.
So this gentleman, he showed me his numbers. He's like, hey, I'm doing $20,000 a month. Check it out. Here's my number. So I was like, oh my God, let's dive into it. But like anything else, it sells. So that's what got me into the apartment locating game. And I just fell in love with the process of things. I've stuck with it forever. And I've recently just transitioned into the real estate side of things with Help Every Renter Own Realty.
I gotcha. So are you the broker of...
Yes.
Very good. So you have had your real estate license for how long?
So I've had my real estate license for 15 years. Yeah. Since 2007.
Okay.
So you would have to have your real estate license for, they usually say about like 300 transactions or something like that.
Yeah,
so
3 years, 4 years, something like that. I'll bring on an expert for that.
Yeah, exactly. I don't have don't take my word for it. Look it up, guys. So I went on ahead and I just stuck with apartments forever. I never thought about being a broker. I always believe, whenever you stick with something, it's just consistency is key, right? You get with the broker, you believe in loyalty and trust. We always see agents that jump from company to company, but it doesn't establish, validity in the process of things. So if you're with someone and you move from brokerage to brokerage, not a good move, just because you got to start all over again. And what I've learned in this business is people do business with people they like, know, and trust, and you're building a brand. So it's one of those things where you just have to stick with it.
Absolutely. And I talk about it quite often, consistency. In a couple of episodes or daily updates that I do, I had mentioned the power of water over time. The river doesn't carve rocks because it's strong. It carves rocks because of its consistency.
Exactly.
And continuation of flowing. So that being said, since you've had your real estate license for so long, what did you do in the beginning? What led you to real estate?
What led me into real estate in the beginning is my sister. She's actually a real estate agent, and her first year, back in the day, they had something that they called subprime. So you can pretty much just sign a form, a P&L form, and everyone would get a home. Well, her first year, she did, about 7 million in deals.
Wow. So
she's like, hey, get in this business. You're going to get rich. Well, as soon as, she's like, you're going to make a lot of money.
Right.
So, we all have this dream, right? And that's immediately what I thought. Hey, I'm going to jump in the real estate business, and guess what? I'm going to be rich. Well, it didn't work like that just because the market crashed. So subprime ended, and a lot of mortgage companies got sued. There was one company, I'm not going to mention their name, but they were doing a bunch of loans where their mortgages jumped up. So it created this whole housing problem. So my first year in, I didn't even have that opportunity to tap into that market and help a lot of people, on that end. So I was basically just helping save people, get out of their homes, work foreclosures and things like that. So it was a challenging market. But the one thing that I learned out of that was building your brand. Nobody knew who I was. My sister had already sold everybody a home. So
in your sphere.
In my sphere of influence. So I had no sphere of influence. So one thing I learned really fast in this business is you got to do business with strangers and you're in sales. Everybody gets into real estate with the concept, hey, I'm going to sell my sphere of influence at home. But guess what? If you don't have that, you just got to learn immediately that you have to connect with strangers. Thank God we have social media now, because now we leverage that to do business with people. And I'm going to share with you guys a pro tip that you can start actually connecting with people right away and build your sphere of influence if you do have family members that are real estate agents, just to grow your business.
Absolutely. I love that. And I love the fact that you mentioned we can only go so far in business and sales with our sphere of influence. And essentially the thing that I say is if we only did business with our friends, we'd all be broke. And it's still true to this day. Eventually the friends will, if you are consistent, will eventually see you as the expert and potentially allow you to earn their business. But it is a tough thing. So as you transition from that, I'm sure business tapered off a little bit, which led you into the apartment business, which in my opinion, it's a recession-proof business because there's always folks that need a place to live.
Absolutely. You're correct. So leasing apartments is essential. So the great thing about apartment locating is somebody knows somebody that knows somebody that's looking to rent an apartment, whether it's your son, your daughter that's already turning 18, that's, going to college. They need somewhere else to move, to live, relocating to town. So there's so many ways that you can help serve a client and build a business. One thing I've learned in this business when I spoke to agents is a lot of agents don't like helping people rent. It doesn't pay much, but in the apartment locating business, it actually pays really well.
Let's talk about that for a moment. I mean, that was one of the questions that I had later down the road, but we're already in it. Okay. So why do you think that realtors for the last, for 10 years since I've been in the industry, stray away from the apartment side, from the rental side of things?
Well, first and foremost, most real estate agents use MLS, which on MLS, your average rental does pay about $250 on average. Some pay half of the commission. But on the apartment side, so that's what kind of keeps the agent straying away from it, because, if you help a client purchase a home, you obviously make more commission. So it's a driven factor, right?
Sure.
So they just stray away from it. But on the apartment side, there are several challenges to it. First, it does pay well. So just to give you guys a game on how apartment locating works, if you do lease a client, they pay up to first month's rent.
Gotcha.
So the average rent here in San Antonio is about $1,300 for a one-bedroom apartment. So if you were to lease a client, their first apartment at $1,300, well, guess what? They're going to pay you a $1,300 commission minus your broker split. The challenging part of that is getting paid. So, if you usually do a rental home, they're going to pay in about a week or so once you invoice it out. Well, with apartments, it's dictated based off the renter. So if you get a renter that gets in a move-in special, they're going to pay you the first month's rent within anywhere from 30 to 90 days. And it's dictated if the renter does pay their rent on time. So you're not getting paid right away, but you're just always, you're doing a service to the client.
No, that makes perfect sense. And that being said, you had mentioned average rent about $1,300. Do you think that's a new stat, or do you think that's rising and has risen?
That's rising just because as we grow, our market's so competitive. So right now, our average occupancy in San Antonio is about 95%. Wow. So right now, it's just as busy as the buying market, just because right now in our market, we have people that are just transitioning to Texas. Texas is free.
Right.
So we have people that are coming from California where, they're locked in, they have different mandates, things like that. And just our growth, we have companies that, so just to kind of backtrack a little bit. So they recently opened Tesla about not too long ago out in Austin.
Right.
So Austin's market rates are just wild. So people, believe it or not, in California used to driving 2 to 4 hours to work in California, being stuck in traffic. So they rather transition to San Antonio and drive that, few hours to purchase a home. But last year we had a problem where there were no homes on the new build side. They couldn't build them as quick as they could fit them. So what happened is that we created this leasing bubble where our leasing rates and then older properties had to compete with newer properties. So they said, hey, let's go on ahead and refurb these older properties and raise our rents just to compete. So now with occupancy raising like that, all of a sudden it just starts to rise.
Sure. No, and
supply and demand.
Absolutely correct. And as you had just mentioned, the Austin market, that is a crazy machine out there.
Yes.
I want to get your take on whether you think it's overinflated or keeping up with the market. And I think there's many factors that we can talk about with this, but just to kind of give perspective.
So recently I had the opportunity to hear the national housing market speech about a couple of days ago, and they said right now the average home in Austin right now is about $100,000 over market price. Yeah. And that's continuing to grow just because of the growth. There's so many factors, as you said, and it's going to continue to grow. It's just one of those things where people are actually transitioning out towards us because they can't fit them in there, or the affordability is not there.
Right. And I think you provide a pretty solid solution to those that have found or transitioned to employment in Austin, because it is, in my opinion, a tech town. Also, I'll even go as far as to say it is going to be the new Silicon Valley eventually, and faster than what we normally would see, because everything is moving at a very, very fast rate and a fast pace. So you had mentioned a great alternative is coming to San Antonio, New Braunfels, all the surrounding areas that our market, I can't say is inflated. It is in line with what's going on with everything else, but it is night and day within, 150 miles from Austin, even less. We're talking homes that are 1,400 square feet going for $1 million over there, whereas here, that same home would maybe be 400. I think our average sales price just trickled up into the 300s.
Correct.
Which is crazy.
Absolutely. I agree. And just seeing that just goes to show that what it does in our market is it just drives affordability out for our locals, because as we have people transitioning from out of town, their budgets are a little different. So for example, in California, their average home is 1.1 million. Mm-hmm. They come to San Antonio and they can purchase a home, for 700 and no problem. And then it creates this issue where, our locals that get an average wage come in, they try to drive into the market. And one thing that they did talk about in the housing forecast is right now our move up program. So we have people that sell homes and they come in with very competitive offers. So if they sell a home that they've been in for 10 years, let's just say they come in with $300,000 in equity and they move up into a $450,000 home, they go and they just make the offer super competitive. And that's what we're seeing right now. And then relocation has just been the growth of town. So our locals are just being pushed out. And as interest rates drive up, it just keeps affording. Because like you said, the average median home price in San Antonio is about $330,000.
Right.
As I was explaining to a gentleman earlier, the most inexpensive house I've seen right now is a 3-bedroom, 2-bath, right under $200,000 with no garage, about 1,048 square feet, wow, just to keep affordability here in San Antonio.
I mean, that's crazy. I mean, my wife and I this past year got into flipping properties because it was a niche and we saw opportunity there. And I don't foresee that opportunity going away anytime soon, simply because we're out of inventory. You've got an option to rent, or you've got an option to potentially build. And all the homes that are still sitting on the market, I'm not going to call them ugly ducklings, but there's a reason why they're sitting on the market still. I think our average days on market is 15 days?
Yeah, just about.
And that's, I think, taking into consideration the ones that go on and boom, they're gone the next day. So I think that market is going to continue to be plentiful for those that have the ability to do that. And what it does is it opens up the opportunity for home buyers to get into homes that are affordable. And I want to talk about affordable housing for a bit. What are your thoughts on the potential of affordability in San Antonio when it comes to the two, let's call it 300 and below market?
On that topic, on the housing forecast, they did have the San Antonio Housing Association, and they did propose a bond for $35 million to help with affordable housing. It hasn't been pushed through yet, but they did speak about that just to create that average under $10, because I think our average minimum wage is like $10.35 or something like that they spoke on. Mm-hmm. So what they wanted to do is create these programs through the city that helps, affordable housing. Their goal was to create just units that they can afford through those programs.
That's great. So let's dive in further to the apartment side of things.
Okay.
And then we'll jump over to the brokerage or real estate side and show people how to leverage some tips and things of that nature. But on the apartment side, when you were showing apartments, and when did you make the transition? How recently was that?
I recently just did it as recent as like 4 months ago.
Okay, good. So you can talk a little bit more on the apartment side of things.
Absolutely.
Number one, what was the reason why you shifted from one to the other?
One of the main reasons is one of our biggest challenges in the business was getting paid.
Yeah.
And the reasoning behind that is because we built up a business and then COVID hit. So when COVID hit, properties just said, hey, we're not going to pay you guys, and we had the eviction memorandum where clients just stuck in the apartment. So they kind of just blamed it on the industry. And I spoke to a few industry professionals and brokers that are in the business, and that's a biggest challenge of that. What we learned in this market is a luxury market does thrive very well. It does pay fast, but we're looking at average renters that have an average budget of our locals here in town. So for example, we went from budgets for one bedrooms as low as 700 to where the average now is 1,300.
Yeah.
So it just drove it up. And this happened overnight, basically with the growth that happens around us, because the apartments started capitalizing on the idea that, hey, if they're growing, we're going to grow as some, and that it's supply and demand at the end of the day, right? If you have someone from California that's saying, hey, I'll rent that right now and pay you guys $1,000 a month. Well, guess what? We're going to do that over that. And it just started transitioning over
the new
time.
Standard.
Yeah. But getting paid was the biggest issue. So we did 6 figures in deals, and we probably got paid a fourth of that.
Wow.
And we're just holding on to this massive debt. The great thing is, though, we did do a service to the client. So now we're at the part where we can transition and help every renter own. So don't look at the idea of the money side of things, but look at the service side. So if you can service a client, like I had mentioned before, when you do help a client, most agents don't want to help a client rent a home. So if you help them, go through the rental process, rent them an apartment, well, guess what? They do business with people they like, know, and trust. They're like, hey, Peter, you help me find an apartment. Well, guess who we're going to buy a house from Peter, just because we helped them on that first end. And that's the idea, is to build that value in the marketplace like that. You create a name for yourself. Don't focus on the money side, but focus on the value that you can provide to your client.
No, that makes sense. And another topic about the apartment side of things is, and I think you had mentioned it, but I just want to highlight it once again, which is at this point in time in our market, those that are focusing on apartment locating, is it discouraging? Because essentially, if you've got I'll compare it to builders. It is tough for lenders to compete in this world because the builders all have their own mortgage company associated with the transaction that offer incentives, things of that nature. But you have a market to where they're not having to be sold very heavily. It's truly supply and demand, as you mentioned. So when your apartments aren't having to seek out salespeople to bring them business, the business is just knocking out the door. Is that a little discouraging?
Definitely. And just because the fact that we do have big brand name companies. So we do have, and I'm just going to plug it in here. We have apartments.com, which is one of the largest in the nation that leases. So it's literally the comparison of Zillow in the home market, where they push us out. So basically they're like, we don't have to pay because we have an exclusive agreement with apartments.com. They'll send us 100 clients with their name. So what happens, and I've actually got this information from a leasing agent that was happy to share with me. She said that these companies will go and register your client, and they'll pay them a commission over you. So they'll basically push you out. So if Mr. Smith goes to that apartment and he's already registered under apartments.com, well, guess what, Peter, you're not going to get paid because they've already been registered to apartments.com. And what I've learned in the business is this is a people business, right? But when someone's following a model where it's like, hey, we registered them digitally, you're stuck. You can change that by servicing your client, by building that value, like, know, and trust, and saying, hey, we want to work with Peter. We're with Peter now. We found this apartment through Peter. But most apartments have adapted to a point where now, even with COVID, it's like they don't even want you around. It's like, hey, you may have COVID. We don't want you in here. So the client goes by themselves. So it creates an issue where it's like, well, who's going to get credit for the deal? And that's been a big growing trend that we've seen a lot of. And I do see quite a few realtor agencies that have joined this side of the business where they're like, hey, it's a great business. But these are just some of the obstacles that do come with the business. One thing I do want to plug in as well. Please. Once you do service the client, once you do help them find the apartment, everything's great, right? You shake hands, you're proud, leasing agents love you, everything's great. Well, guess what? When it comes down to getting paid, it's like, hey, Mr. Smith has been here for 90 days. How's my invoice doing? That's where you run into the problem. They don't want to pay you the commission. And then every management company is different. So there's about 1,500 management companies here in San Antonio. So every management company has a different set of rules. So some do require you to register as a vendor. Some require you to pay a fee to be part of their exclusive management company. So from there, they make you jump through a few different hoops. So you're basically paying to get paid, and they may not pay you. They're like, oh, and then at the end of the transaction, they're like, hey, your customer's not even here anymore. They didn't pay their rent on time. So, and then the market being so competitive the way it is, so we have competition and it's fierce, So we have companies that offer movers, gift cards, things like that. So last year we gave away about $40,000 in just gift cards, just not to see that return. So on average client, let's just talk small numbers, right? So we do $200 in movers, which is about 2 hours in movers on average, which, our competitors do. And you do that times 10, which is a minuscule number. You're giving away $2,000 a month. So you're running your business on a debt. And that's not the right way to do things,
No.
but you do want to do the right thing by the client. So one thing you would demand in this industry is change, right? Like, the companies take care of the realtors that take care of you. But since technology has just grown so much, you're like, apartments.com could give two shits if you get paid or not at the end of the day.
It's true.
And that's how it goes, because they're just a company that have salaried employees, and they're just they're driving forward. And that is a key factor in this business that made me transition into real estate. At the end of the day, when you service a client, the deal goes well, you close, you get fun, everybody's happy, you have income to provide them with closing gifts, and everybody's happy, right?
Absolutely. So I want to hone in on the not getting paid piece of this. That's got to be very difficult for, let's say, a newer agent that comes into the business, realtor, and works their sphere of influence. Everybody's bought. Okay, where can I find business? They shift over to the apartment side, and they're unaware of the things that you're talking about. So they go and they take their customer to the apartment. They hand them off. They get them signed up, and they're thinking that the commission's going to come and then the apartment says, well, you didn't sign up front, so unfortunately we're not paying you. Thanks for the referral, but that's that. Or you're not a part of our association, or you didn't take the steps that were necessary in order to make sure that you're getting paid. That's got to be tough, And I almost have to say, how is that legal? But I know how it's legal. I mean, contracts are contracts, and same thing goes for builders. Same thing goes for folks that have MSA agreements. There's just a lot of landmines that, let's say, newer agents to the business have no idea about. And I want to make sure that if they are still leaning towards that side, maybe they're not as confident or don't have a book of business large enough to make the transition over to the real estate side, that they're aware of what to look for in those case scenarios.
One piece of value I do want to offer on that, which is great. New agents, don't get discouraged of jumping into the apartment locating world just because of the idea of getting paid. Like I said before, when you do a service by a client, and that's the reason why we start Help Every Renter Own Realty, because my goal as a broker was to bring in new agents and just teach them something as minuscule as leasing 5 clients a month. Over time, it's a compound effect, right? So if you lease 5 clients, it's on average to 60 clients that you help. After your first year in real estate, you can transition that into a numbers game to where if you just close 10% of that, that's $1.5 million to $2 million in deals. That's the reason why it works. But just to drive back to your question, the one thing that's super important in the apartment locating business is communication is key. And the reason why I say that is if you do get a client and you service them to a T, is make a relationship with the leasing agent. Mm-hmm. Make sure you register your client so you have that digital footprint, that digital copy. Make sure you send a guest card. Make sure you send an email. Make sure you get a reply. Because if you have all those things, those are all factors for you to get paid. And those are things that will help you in the event if you ever, and in the end, once your client leases, make sure you get a lease verification. If you have those 4 things in play and they listed you on the application, by registering them, you're going to get paid a commission. That's pretty much saying, hey, I spoke to Kim over here at this apartment, and you set that appointment for that client. You always be the authority in the business. One thing I do want to share in the business by making relationships is givers gain. The more value that you drive in the marketplace, the more value that you gain. So there's a company here in San Antonio that started adding value. So I believe adding value is a super major important thing, right? So what they did to add value to agents is they started providing closing baskets. So one thing I trained my agents on was to not think about the money, but, start off with a small budget, about $100 and create like 5 gift baskets just to take to leasing and say, hey, my name is Peter. I'm in the business. I'm in apartment locating. What I would love to do is bring you this gift basket. So what it does, it has a $5 gift card. It's a moving basket essentially. Okay, so it has 2 margarita glasses, 2 shots and some pizza and then some essential things like sanitizer, some air freshener, and then just like a little tower. So you're moving basket. So
you should add some poopery.
Right, poopery.
Everybody's got to have it.
So what happens is you add this value, and what you want to do is like I said, givers gain. So you go with the intention of saying, hey, I want to do business with you, but what I would love for you to do is give this basket to your client that you already leased, and in there, what you want to have is information on purchasing a home, credit repair program, and then ask the leasing agent, say, all I ask for you to do is to take a picture, tag me on social media. And then that's the value you give. So once they do that, they give it to their client. It just makes it look like you're closing tons of deals. At the same time, it just builds that value in the marketplace where you actually care about, servicing clients and getting them to that next level of ownership.
I love that. And I think that showing value 100% is a key factor in any sales position, because you're not necessarily selling, you're leading that customer to something that they should or we believe that they need in their life. So I wanted to mention the checklist, the 4 things. Do you currently have somewhere where you have this in writing in a marketing piece, something along those lines? Because if you don't,
Yes.
okay.
Yes,
man.
absolutely. So like I said, the 4 things is, Mr. Client comes in, you have to have some type of CRM. So I'm going to share a simple CRM that's completely free that you can start using today. So it's basically, we're in sales, right? So every month you have to have a goal. So what's your goal? If you want to help, let's just say 5 clients a month and the average rent is $1,000. That's $5,000 that you can start billing out every single month. So what we do is we believe in visualization is key, right? So if you visualize something, you can make it happen. But if you don't have a plan, it's like they say, prepare to plan or plan to fail. So if you have this plan, you use the CRM, it's called Trello. On Trello, you can create your goals, basically what we call a board. So on your board, you have Mr. Smith that comes in, you register him. What is he looking for? 1 bedroom, 1,200, name, phone number, side of town. You could literally just take a screenshot of that from your phone, send an email to the leasing agent, say, hey, Mr. Smith is going to this property at this time. Boom, you got your digital footprint. And then what it does is you start scaling the customer from when you set them for an appointment, if they close or if they turn to a dead lead. And you could use this completely free and if you're not using this in your real estate business now, I highly recommend that you have some type of, if you can't afford a CRM, if your broker doesn't provide one, this is completely free. Like anything else, like me as a broker, as I tell my agent, this is your real estate business. And as brokers, we want to provide as much value as possible. But honestly, there's some brokers that could give 2 shits about what you do. So adding this value piece for you guys, if you use this today, you can actually visualize, because what gets measured gets improved, right? So let's say if you talk to 10 clients a day, well, what the hell happened to them all?
Right,
But if you see them all on Trello and you start scheduling them down the line, hey, we got Mr. Smith, we took him to 123 Main Street, what happened out of that? Did you close him? Did we go under contract? Is he pre-approved? What's going on? But like that, you're able to visualize that. On the apartment locating site, this works 100%. And I teach my agents that. And it works because you're visualizing every client and you're going through that process. And you can download this application on your phone and it's just a drag and drop. It's so simple. And what I learned in this business is keep it simple sells, right? So using that CRM, that's going to help improve your business to a point where now you know your numbers and you measured it. Everybody could have big bells and whistles and things like that. But in the end of the day, it's just super simple as that. Just knowing your client, knowing your numbers. How many clients did you speak to today? And what value did you get out of it, to help them?
That's excellent. That's excellent. And I have quite a few things to say after what you just mentioned. So starting with Trello, I actually personally use that with our web developers
Sweet.
That are out of the Philippines.
Awesome.
And it is fantastic for tracking the progress on the tasks and the sprints that they're doing, things of that nature. Another alternative is if you have Microsoft Teams, there is a Teams task card or application that allows you to basically do the same thing where you can add folks to your team and essentially keep updated on the individual cards, which will compare the card to a customer. I think that keeping track of everything that you do is super important because if you're not tracking it, how do you know how to make improvements down the road?
Right.
Matter of fact, I did a class yesterday, Never Too Late, or it's better late than never, your 2022 a simple business plan.
Sweet.
And I think the most eye-opening thing is that there are so many people that are going through this business without a plan. They're flying through the wind, as I mentioned yesterday, like a paper bag drifting through the wind. And you had mentioned if you don't have a plan, you're planning to fail.
Correct.
And I had mentioned somebody said that yesterday. And I said, well, I mean, if you don't have a plan, then you're not planning for anything.
Correct.
So you don't plan to fail. You're just not doing anything.
Correct.
And I think the idea behind having a CRM system, and those of you that want to learn more about CRM systems and how to utilize them and leverage them, we've got an episode dedicated solely on that concept. So definitely utilize your CRM system, utilize the things that are available to you. And if you're not seeking out these things, that's, I think, the first step. You need to seek these things out. Once you find it, then learn how to use it and then learn how to leverage it.
Correct.
Again, super important. The checklist, I would love to see if you could send that to me so that we can post it within the description and I'll tag you to that. That's a great thing.
And I'll send that Trello board just so you can kind of get a visualization of what it looks like. Because like anything else, if you're listening to this podcast, now take action. Just do it. Don't even think about it. Just do it. That's what I learned in this business is most people will listen to something, write down copious notes, and nothing never happens with it. But if you're listening to this, download that immediately, set up this visualization board, and from there, take action on it daily.
Absolutely. And you know, there was a statistic that I looked up, and statistics are only as good as the source.
Correct.
But I don't think it falters too far from this, but it's the number or percentage of people that go to these motivational speakings, these classes, these tips and tricks sessions, about 95% of them leave there and don't do a thing.
Right.
Based on what they just learned. I have a feeling that it's based on the feeling that they get when they're in there. They like hearing from somebody that's successful, but are either unwilling, scared, or unmotivated to actually take the next steps in doing those types of things to implement in their business.
I agree.
Okay, so we've talked a lot about apartment locating, things of that nature. I want to dive into the broker real estate side of things. So as you made that transition this past couple months, what was that like? What was that like? I know why you made the decision, but I wanted to hear, how did you go about planning? What were you going to use to leverage in this? And I would imagine it's not just you as the broker and yourself as the realtor, right?
Well, technically it is.
Okay.
You know, so going all in was just going full tilt. And the reason why we did that, well, I did that is because we weren't getting paid on this end. So it's like, hey, we got to do something drastic.
Right.
I hired a real estate coach. If you're not getting coaching or some type of motivation or accountability daily, you need that in your life, whether it's your, you know, I know some brokers may not motivate and coach you, but if you have an agent that you're friends with, hold each other accountable. So I hired a coach, and the coach is like, you got to drop the apartment stuff immediately. Wow. And the reason behind that is he's like, you know, if we want to get referrals in a business where people want to sell their home and buy a home, and we're known as an apartment locating company, they're not going to send us that business. I saw that piece happening where everyone was sending me rental leads. I'm known as a rental guy. You know, one gentleman named me the king of rentals, you know. That's awesome. So it's a great brand to have, but at the end of the day, wouldn't you rather close a $500,000 client over a $500 client?
Even if you're making 1% on that $500,000 client, it's still time better spent.
Exactly.
And I wanted to spotlight something that you had just mentioned, and I didn't know before, which was you had a coach.
Yes.
And one thing that I have found that has been a consistency with the folks that I've had on here, including myself, is we all have coaches. I think one of the things that folks don't realize is that if you want to get to the next level, you can't do it on your own.
Correct.
Michael Jordan still had several coaches. Yep. And matter of fact, I had my coach on an episode that's currently in production. So that one may air before this one.
Awesome.
But I am a huge advocate for getting help and coaching and guidance, because you are only looking or going through life in the lens of yourself.
Correct.
You've got to get outside perspective so that can give you a different perspective or a bigger picture of understanding your goals, how to get there, understanding the needle moving activities that it requires in order to get to your goals.
Exactly.
Accountability, being realistic. These are just some of the things that I believe are important with that. Sorry, I had to go off on a tangent on there.
You're good.
Back to you on that.
So I decided to go into this housing market, but like you said, I didn't have a plan. You know, I said, fuck this, you know, we're not getting paid. You know, I had agents leave my company because they're not getting paid. And I said, hey, you're accountable for your leases just as much as me. It doesn't all fall on the broker. It falls on you. Are you checking up on your clients? We have a collections team in place, but they can only go so far. You know, we weren't getting paid, so we moved over to this side. But now from this side, as my coach told me, you're a brand new agent. You know, nobody knows who the hell you are.
Right.
Now you got to build this brand all over again. We dropped Apartment Heroes and went to HERO Realty, help every renter own realty. And in that move, I learned that there's a major curve because I'm a brand new agent all over again. And I have to say brand new agent because it's saying, hey, we're out here. But now guess what? We're competing with every 15,000 agents here in town that's saying the same damn message you are, right?
That's exactly right.
So how do you separate yourself from the other agents? If you're not providing value every day, are you providing real estate tips every day? Are you creating memes? Because people, believe it or not, most of our business is on social media. People do business with people they like, know, and trust.
Say that one more time. Most of our business is where?
On social media.
Oh my gosh. You've got to be kidding, right?
Nope, that's where they all are. You know, if you're knocking on doors, you might get like a 60-year-old man that may open the door. But millennials, hey, they're over in Milan right now, you know, with their cryptocurrency millions. They're not going to answer the door for you. They look at you in the ring and say, hey, get the hell out of here.
That's so true.
So how do you get in front of these clients, you know, with someone that knows, hey, my deal's a realtor, I'm going to do business with him. Well, guess what? I'm going to share this with you guys. If you guys don't know that, people get on social media to be entertained.
Yeah.
So if you don't start entertaining your clients and adding something of value, my coach did share with me every day, don't be a secret agent. So lately there's a rule that we follow. It's an 80-20 rule, 80% for them, 20% for them. But my coach said, hey, you need to spam the shit out of everybody and just get out there because you're a realtor now. He's like, you need to let everybody know you're in this business. And we're seeing traction on that. So daily applicable things that you can do today. If you're not doing this already, which you should be, if you're just sitting there twiddling your thumbs, looking at some TikTok video, wasting your life away, you need to start doing TikTok videos, model what people are doing now so that you can start growing your business, because that's where we're moving towards. One thing you want to do is share value, share real estate tips, buy, sell tips every day, showcase other people's listings. Like, don't be that agent that's scared. Just say, hey, take some action, post that listing and start generating leads out of it. And then just get more profession in video. One thing I would challenge you to do is do a 7-day video challenge. Like that, your first video is going to fail, your second video is going to fail, but after you get to your 7 videos, you're going to start getting better at it, right? Repetition is key in this business. So if you're taking those actions daily, so as a broker, I had to take a step back, literally become the agent all over again and realize that. And what I became is a sponge. There's some brokers that are highly successful. Hats off to you guys. You guys build it up. That's great. But as I sat down, I had to really humble myself and realize I have to lead with value, right? So I started knocking on doors, and the damn millennials didn't answer me, told me to go to hell, you could have COVID. I got a couple of 60-year-olds that said, yeah, we'd love to still, list our house with you in the future, but one thing I learned is you got to be able to still do those things and lead with value. I did my first open house this year, just to see the traction on that. And my goal was just to connect with as many people as possible and start building your business. If you do have an active real estate business now, add value to your clients that you have now. Are you visiting them daily? Are you dropping off gifts with them? You can do something. So say if you closed 20 deals last year, are you dropping off baskets to them every month? Adding that value, being top of mind for referrals. So you can do something as simple as a $5 basket that you can get at Dollar Tree. Now it's $1.25 tree. So maybe $6, but at the end of the day, you have an advertisement. Did
you see that on Bill Maher? Where did you see that?
I showed up there when I was like, what the hell? $1.25. I was like, bro,
he was just talking
I got $4. I can only buy like 3 things. What? I'm just kidding. But
you're right.
At the end of the day, it's like, you want to add that value to your clients. So if you have 20 clients right now, immediately go buy them gift baskets, and let's just say $5 just to be, that's $100 that you're staying top of mind. Well, guess what? For that $100 you spend on those 20 clients, if you get 3 referrals at the end of the year, that's going to be a gross commission. Let's just say about $15,000, so you spend, $1,200 on your existing database to make $12,000 to $20,000 in commission. It makes sense at the end of the day. So doing that, I'm growing my business all over again. I am farming the clients that I do have on the rental side, but
and I want to get into that as far as the farming and the databases and things of that nature. But before we do that, you had mentioned something on the social media side that I have to give my 2 cents on, which if you are in the business of sales, if you're in the business of helping people, if you're in the business of selling to live your life, to earn your living, I think the mindset of social media has to change. You've got to flip from a consumer to a creator. And I was speaking to a gentleman, a good friend, that said, just press record. You've got to provide content. You've got to be constant content. And I believe what you're talking about is being top of mind. You've got to find a way to be top of mind. Now, I am going to disagree with your coach. I mean, you can have him call me.
That's fine.
But at the end of the day, I believe, yes, 80-20, I used to preach that.
Yep.
80% personal, 20% business. And on your business page, you can flip it, 80% business, 20% personal.
Yep.
But I believe the new norm is shifted to 90-10.
Correct.
And I believe that there is a way for you as the new creator to do this by intertwining both into a merged 90-10. It can be personal, and then business, but then the next couple of personals, make sure that you put your logo in the little corner of the picture.
That makes sense.
Or your logo somewhere that keeps that top of mind. And the last piece to that is leveraging technology.
Correct.
Utilize some form of capture system. If you're putting this content out there, the idea is to eventually convert the said person that's seeing this content into a customer, and not just a one-time customer, but a customer for life. And that's where the CRM systems come into play. But we're talking about the beginning process of obtaining customers.
Correct.
I believe social media is a great outlet I don't have a TikTok, but before long, if I were to jump on TikTok, there'll already be something new coming to the market. So I've gotten into YouTube in the past couple months, and we're doing this podcast, and that is intended to give consumers, realtors, and lenders out there some backdoor knowledge. I want to take the curtain away from it so that I can be known as the expert in mortgage, but also the person that is willing to have discussions with other professionals. So yeah, I mean, those are great points that you had brought up, but let's get into the, as you mentioned, leveraging your business and the customers and your book of business. So that is a question that I have for you. Since you came from the apartment industry, you had customers for many years. And I'm going to read some stats before we move forward based on this. And thank you, JC, for looking this stuff up. Let's see here. 67.4% was the national homeowner rate in 2020. 65% of renters that are young adults. 72% of the renters who said they want to own a home one day. Let's see, 37% of renters who live in an apartment. So essentially what these stats are telling me is that there's less homeowners than what I had thought. There's way more renters than what I had thought, but these renters eventually will become homeowners.
Correct.
So how do you currently leverage that, or what advice would you give for someone that is wanting to do so?
One thing I would just say is add value to the rental market. So everybody says the same narrative, right? Everyone wants to say, stop throwing your damn money away. But does that really help a renter? A renter knows, hey, I can't afford the fucking house right now.
You're right.
I don't qualify for the damn house. So how are you adding value in that marketplace? So one thing that you can do now is you can educate your client that's a renter and say, hey, you can actually show rental history on your credit. Let's work on that, while you're building that value up. If you have a goal, it gets measured, gets improved. Let's create a savings budget. I recently dropped a tip where you could start shaving things off of your daily budget to save $500. And over time, over the course of 2 years, you can save $12,000 for your down payment on a home. So let's start educating clients that are renting now versus I'm just going to say it, besides degrading them, saying, hey, you're throwing all your damn money away and speaking the same message, but say, hey, let's add some value. Let's create a game plan. Look at it like a lifetime value. And then from there, when it's time for them to buy, they have a down payment and their rental history shows, because, if you have rental history that you're showing on your credit, well, guess what? When they're doing, going towards a loan, like, hey, he has 24 months of positive, rental history. We don't have to verify anything. We
and
move
that
forward.
Absolutely is a compensating factor that we
absolutely
look at. You're correct. So looking at, and you see plenty of flyers out there, plenty of marketing pieces, rent versus buy. I wanted to talk about a couple of those things. Sure. For example, benefits and disadvantages, perception and misperception. A lot of folks say, I don't want to rent because of the repairs. And in my opinion, they're thinking that I have a landlord, they'll take care of that, versus me, that if it breaks, I've got to take care of it. What do you say to those folks?
To those folks, I mean, you could literally just let them know, one of the positive things, if you sell them a brand new home, it has warranty for 10 years, so that's a great key factor right there. So even on used homes, they have the home warranties companies as well. So that's definitely the idea is to overcome the objection with something of value and say, hey, we have a problem. Everything in life, is you have a problem, but you got to create a roadblock over it. If you create that roadblock by adding that value versus saying, oh, you're right. You know what? Maybe you shouldn't. Right. And all of a sudden you just killed the whole deal. You're saying, no. And then all of a sudden it's like, what's the real reason why you don't want to buy? And then you get down to the real, meat and potatoes of things. Hey, my credit's fucked up, or, I have a foreclosure, because when we meet clients, we don't know their situation. We're just trying to add as much value as possible, but we do ask the same questions. Are you pre-qualified? Last thing I want to do is show you $1 million home and you qualify for 50,000, right? So, what we want to do is we want to just get better at adding that value every day and just educating as much as possible. If you're able to hold a first-time home buyer seminar, just to educate, bringing directions loans, to help facilitate that and bring in the experts to help them get to that level, and grow your business that way.
Absolutely. So, I mean, I want to talk, there's 3 other kind of points I want to go over here together. The availability, you had talked about it earlier.
Yes.
And that, in my opinion, is kind of a motivator to get folks to understand that, let's say you're having a tough time finding a property to purchase. Mm-hmm. Well, on the renting side, you may have that same issue.
Correct.
In addition to those prices are even more so inflated.
Correct.
Because of what's happening in our market. You've got people coming in from the East and the West Coast because of jobs, things of that nature. Cost of living is much lower. They're able to come here, buy 2 investment properties and rent while they're waiting for their new home to be built.
Correct.
Whereas San Antonio folks don't really have that option for the most part because of the access funds.
Correct.
I believe our average credit score is 676, where you've got people coming in from the north and east and west where their average scores are in the 700s.
Correct.
So that's just one thing that I want to notate. And then benefits. The benefits to buying versus renting is you will be able to write off some things on your taxes. Correct. In regards to the interest paid, mortgage, insurance. There's many different things that will help there versus you as the consumer helping your landlord get some tax breaks.
Correct.
And then when the time comes for them to say, oh, screw the landlords, this and that. Well, you're helping them.
Yep.
It's you that's doing this and helping put them on a pedestal. The last thing I wanted to talk about in regards to this is the requirements. Over the last several years, what I have noticed, and my wife and I got rid of all of our rental properties that we held, but back then I set my own requirements.
Correct.
So if I wanted to have somebody put 2% down, 3% down for their upfront earnest money or their upfront deposit, they would have to do that.
Yeah.
Minimum credit scores. I got to choose what their credit score was to be able to rent out my property. I would imagine that they're very similar in the regards to needing a down payment versus a deposit.
Correct.
Having a decent credit score versus not. I mean, we've got loan programs that we can go down to 580.
Correct. Or even zero down.
Zero down programs. And you own a piece of the American dream.
Correct.
I mean, what are your thoughts on that?
My thoughts on that? Well, since we did the apartment locating site forever, so just to dive into that, people can get in inexpensively. So luxury apartments do something as crazy as 8 weeks free. So they do 2 months for free. So clients would get in on that and not have to pay much money. So that was a key factor in the reason why someone would rent. Now we're seeing the market different. And then qualifications are a lot easier than renting a home and buying. So if someone has a broken lease, for example, they do charge a deposit, some as low as $250, some as high as a month's rent. So that's another motivating factor for you to get into that space. But at the same time, you want to educate. So you just have to do your due diligence overall and ask the right questions when you're getting those clients. Because, if you do have someone that has the money, that makes sense, do talk to them about the benefits of owing. But if you do have someone that's on a challenge situation, you still want to serve the client and just always drive that key factor that, hey, we want to get you to home ownership. And that's why we created what we created to help, leverage that.
And you as the broker, are you looking to hire additional realtors? Do you currently have realtors? What's your situation there?
Absolutely. So I have a team of 10 now. So I started off as high as a team of 18, but when we went onto realty side, before they weren't charging us fees to where we had to, pay NMLS and Sabor, but Sabor is like a little mafia. They want to charge you, they want to charge people that don't even touch Sabor, $300 a month. Now, a lot of agents may not have that. So to be very frank, all my agents are part-time. They don't want to take the actions to move forward, the risk, and it's one of those things where if you want to be in this business and you want to thrive, consistency is key. You got to provide something. You got to let people know that you're in this business and provide value every day. Because if you don't, no one's going to know who you are. And you have another person that's, going harder than you. So you're competing with everybody. So you definitely have to be competitive. We are always growing. We are always looking for agents. My goal is to add as much value as possible because when value exceeds expectations, that's where agency will happen.
I like that. That's absolutely correct. So you've got something here that I've got some questions on.
Sure.
I want to hear. Dream 25.
Dream 25.
Tell me about that.
So your Dream 25 is people so what are you afraid of? In life, we want to know, what are you afraid of? So for example,
spiders.
No, who do you want to do business with? So for example, do you want to do business with Mark Cuban? Who are your Dream 25 people and what are you doing to get in front of them today? So if let's just say for someone like a celebrity here in town, like Thomas J. Henry, I want to sell him a mansion in the Dominion. What are you doing to get in front of them? So what I would recommend is to make a list of 25 people that in your lifetime that you see yourself doing business with and start engaging with them. And once you start doing that, what happens is they start to know who you are. It's not going to happen overnight. So I'm going to share a story that I heard recently from someone in my circle. So there was this young lady and her husband is somebody that's very, very high in digital marketing. He does a lot of speaking. Well, one of her she had a dream one. She wanted to be friends with The Rock. So what she started doing,
like The Rock, like
The Rock,
this guy?
yeah, that guy. So what she started doing every day, she started sending TikToks of her and her kids doing dances every day. Now, mind you, The Rock gets, people that are, tons of people message him.
Absolutely.
So it took her 3 years to do it. And the point is what happened is they were at this event. They pulled up The Rock's video to his wife, like, hey, Shannon, we love what you're doing over here. It was The Rock. She finally got in front of her dream one.
Wow.
So the key behind the Dream 25 is consistency is key. So if you want to do business with Thomas J. Henry, get in front of him, be that person that sends him a super expensive bottle of liquor with his name on it. And guess what? Maybe he'll send you a video and say, hey, thank you so much, Peter, for what you've done. But the idea behind this is to create your Dream 25 list of people that you're afraid of, that you want to do business with. So in the end, once you do that, and focus is a superpower, right? So if you do focus on that list, you better believe it, over the course of time, as a compound effect, you will get in front of that person. There was another guy named Chet Holmes. He wanted to do business with somebody. I would just listen to this. He wanted to do something with someone famous. So he would call this guy one time a month for 5 years. And after 5 years, they actually became business partners. But the key behind this is consistency and creating that list of people that you see yourself doing business with, and being afraid of. I mean, we're talking about people that you may not want to go in the room and may look away from because you're scared, and break that fear. And once you do that, all of a sudden you may land someone that you may do business with in the future. And that's the idea of a Dream 25.
I really like that. And I've never heard of it. I've never heard of the concept. It's something that I myself am going to implement.
Sweet.
And see what happens.
Oh, it works.
I'm telling you, it has to. And
absolutely.
I guess the message throughout this episode, which I'm probably going to name the title of this, Consistency and Persistency, Apartment Locating to Broker Rainmaker,
Yeah, exactly.
and that being said, I mean, is there anything else that you would provide in way of advice? I tell you what, before I ask that, do you have a formal education? Did you go to college? I myself went to college, but didn't graduate.
Yes.
So I want to ask, where after college, because we're both well out of college age. Well, technically not. You can go back anytime. But where are you getting your motivation, education? Where reading books? Are you listening to podcasts?
So one thing I just got hip to, I had a simple goal. So goals are everything. So if you have a goal, it gets measured, it gets improved, right? My goal was to read 12 books this year. Well, I got into audiobooks recently, and on my way to showings and appointments, I listened to 5 books.
That's awesome.
I was like, holy shit, I'm already past my goal. So instead of listening to rap videos about people that are doing better than you and want to kill somebody, it's like, hey, put on a motivating book that will. One book I read, and I'm going to plug it in. It's called Outwitting the Devil. It's a really great book. Brian Tracy, No Excuses. It's like literally saying, hey, fuck your excuses, take action every day. You want to listen to things that are actionable, right? What can you do today that'll help you get better?
Actionable and measurable.
Exactly. Yep. So that's one thing where I get most of my motivation. I am part of a group where we motivate each other daily besides my real estate coach. You want to go somewhere where you can be vulnerable, where because you can talk to friends and family, but they're going to judge you. They're going to say, but you got to be prepared to not give a fuck about what anybody thinks about you.
Absolutely.
And you got to, it's like they say when you go do a TikTok video and you look like an asshole, get prepared to get judged. But when you're judged, at the end of the day, who gives a shit? Because if you do reach that client and you get that business, well, guess what? We're having that. You want to focus on that happy moment where you have the key with the client, you got into home ownership, but you got to take those actions daily. So the educating yourself daily is staying motivated. So what I do daily is I write down 5 things that I'm grateful for. I focus on my family, my faith, and my genetics. So I work out every day. But the idea is it's a compound effect of things over time, right? What are you doing daily till you get? So one analogy I do want to put out there is you're stuck on an island for 60 days, right? What are 3 things that you need to survive, besides water, to drive your business? So one, you need referrals and you need clients. So you got to focus on those things for 60 days. And once you get to that point, it'll get improved and measured. If you don't do that and you're just kind of shooting from the hip, you're not aiming at anything. So you have to have that goal in mind in place.
You're absolutely correct when it comes to that. Gosh, man, there's been so much in this one episode that folks out there listening, they're going to get a lot from. I'm hoping that they are able to go back and replay it and maybe write down some of these tips and tricks.
I was kind of all over the place,
No. And that's okay. I'm ADD as hell. It doesn't bother me at all. I can keep up and then we'll circle it back around.
Sweet.
But attestation to what you're talking about in regards to people thinking you look like a jackass by putting certain content out there. Well, 2012, you guys, I started growing my own business of the mortgage industry with social media. And I got a lot of flack for it from friends, from family. But at the end of the day, I would tell people it's not for you. I'm in this game for the long run.
Correct.
And I continue to do that. And it may have taken a couple of years for people to jump on the bandwagon, but now I do have people on. And now I've got a trailer hitched with plenty of other tools that I've collected throughout the years. All I can say is, look at me now. At the end of the day, I've utilized the beginning phases of what you're talking about to grow a business that has residual. I can then leverage over to accomplishing bigger dreams,
Correct.
Essentially opening businesses, flipping properties, investing in things that my family can benefit from down the road. But
Correct.
all the things that you're talking about are absolutely measurable items that people can take straight to the bank.
Correct.
I like to say, is there anything that you'd like to tell us that folks out there can take straight to the bank? Well, you've told plenty of things.
Sweet.
Is there anything, and I am actually looking forward to doing business with you as we move forward.
Same.
Is there anything that you want to end and give our listeners that they can take to the bank again?
Absolutely. So one last thing I want to share with you right now, like I said before at the beginning of this, people do business with people they like, know, and trust. And we're going to do business with strangers, right? So if you're not leveraging social media right now to grow your audience, did you know if you treat your Facebook like a CRM, you can actually segment every client that's a homeowner, that's a buyer. I would immediately take action and do that. So segment your clients that are homeowners and that are not homeowners and start dropping value to each one. And once you have that kind of mapped out, the rest is easy. So once you do that, well, one thing I want to share, which I share with every agent that I do speak with to add that value whenever we have conversations, there's a method I want to teach you to grow your friends from anywhere from 30 to 90 friends within 30 days. And I immediately implore you to take action on this because this will get you to that next level. So if you're not on Facebook, you need to be on Facebook.
100%.
If you're not part of Facebook groups, you need to join groups immediately. And so the 3 things I want to share, which I call the Lucky 7 method. So 3 simple things that take less than 5 minutes every day for the next 30 days, do them. So one thing you want to do is you want to love somebody's post that you don't know. So someone that's a stranger that you don't know in a group. So someone just love their post, just be that person because repetition's key, right? So if you love their post, well, guess what? They're going to do social recon on you. They're going to say, who the heck is this stalker on my,
right.
But so what you want to do is you want to prime your profile where it says, hey, I'm a realtor, not some creeper, don't be a secret agent. As I said, make sure it says, hey, I sell real estate. But the key to this is that's the first thing you want to do. The second thing you want to do is you want to comment something of value to someone in a group, because what gets measured gets improved. Don't talk about your real estate business, but say, hey, who has the best tacos in town, right? Just say, hey, this restaurant has the best tacos in town. That's value. Exchange of value is literally giving someone some advice in exchange for information. And all you're doing is being helpful. The last thing you want to do is you want to jump on someone's wall and just message them something positive. Say, hey, Mark, I hope you're having a great day today. So what happens in the world is what you're creating is reciprocation, right? So reciprocation's key. So if you do that for the next 30 days, over the course of time, you're going to get anywhere from 30 to 90 new friends that are just simply going to engage with you. And if you see yourself doing business with that person, send a friend request to them. But the main thing, don't be this guy. Do not pitch them. I dislike, I had a friend to this, this asshole that's, in the business. They're like, hey, buy my shit. No.
Right away. I haven't shown you any value.
I haven't shown you any value.
Same concept of people clicking on an ad and immediately it asks for your information.
It spams you.
Yeah. Like, wait a minute. You haven't given me any value yet.
So after you built this database of 30 to 60 new friends, start commenting stuff. Love their posts. Be their friend. Engage with them. If they go to a restaurant, say, hey, how was that restaurant? Then send them a DM. Once you get into the DM, that's where it goes down. As they say, it goes down in the DM, right? It goes down. So it's like, hey, oh, by the way, I love that restaurant you went to. That's great. Well, hey, by the way, I'm a real estate agent. If there's anything I could do to serve you and your family, I'd be more than happy to serve you guys. So with that being said, if you try that for the next 30 days, your business will start growing outside of your sphere of influence and you're inviting strangers to your life. And that's where we trickle back to your 80-20 rule, where it's 80% for them. We're entertaining them, making them laugh every day. And then you're pitching them. So if you try that for the next year, and you say you get an average of 30 friends for 12 months, that's 360 friends that you can pitch. And if you close 10% of that, that's 36 deals that you have.
That's pretty good. That's pretty great advice right there. Gosh, there was so much I got out of this. First and foremost, I believe the concept of if you build it, they will come is outdated and not true. If you build it, they will come if they know about it. So you've got to stay top of mind. You've got to find a way to get in their DM and don't just like stuff, love stuff. Be the person that goes above and beyond. Be the person that on their post, there's only 3 people that typically love things. They notice that. Trust me,
Yep.
I notice it. So I'm sure they do as well. I think typically I would list all the key factors, but there are so many in this that I want to hone in on just one. And that one is consistency.
Consistency.
The biggest key factor in any sales position, real estate, mortgage, insurance, anything like that has to do with consistency and persistency.
Correct.
So I would like to thank you, Peter, for joining me on this. I've learned
Absolutely.
a lot about you. And as I mentioned, I'm excited about doing business together.
Sweet.
And I want to invite the listeners out there to share this with somebody that may get something out of this. If you learn something from it, I believe it's a potential to give you an opportunity to share and add value to someone else's life just by sharing. And if you haven't already, go like, subscribe, and tune into our videos and podcast episodes. I'm also doing daily millennial mortgage updates. You can find that on Millennial Market Talk, and that's going to be on our YouTube channel. You can also find us on Spotify, Facebook, and Apple Podcast. It's kind of leveraging these two together. So without further ado, guys, thank you. Have a great rest of the day.